The Rosetta Stone, a biography. The Rosetta Stone is an incomplete artifact made from dark granite, 114 centimeters high, 72 centimeters wide, 27 centimeters thick, weighing 720 kilograms, and is covered with inscriptions on one side. It stands within the British Museum as an object from the ancient Egyptian world and is viewed as such by many. But the use and meaning of an object changes over time as it interacts or is interacted with by people, cultures and societies, and therefore has a life history of its own. Agency can be drawn from an object, power can be embodied within it, and an object may empower a person. The purpose of this video is to discuss the biography of the Rosetta Stone and how this object's use and meaning has changed since the point of its original function. The Rosetta Stone began life as a raw material from Aswan, which was shaped into a stela and inscribed with a decree issued at Memphis, Egypt, between 205 and 180 BC on behalf of King Ptolemy V. Sourcing the material and the techniques and practices used to shape the stone were part of a long-standing industry at the time. The decree was inscribed in 3 languages. A Demotic script used for the day-to-day affairs of the Ptolemy rulers of this period was inscribed in the middle, Egyptian hieroglyphs at the top and Greek at the bottom. It is unclear if the inscriber was fluent in these written texts or if they had just been copied. Stelae were designed to perpetuate the official records of the Egyptian state, and the decree on the Rosetta Stone was an agreement issued by the king and the synod, with a purpose to show the pharaoh's benevolence towards his people and his piety towards the gods. The Rosetta Stone was not unique and would have been associated with many similar stelae with the same decree that were placed in the temples across the land. And complete, the stone was taller and had images depicting the gods beside the king. When completed, the Rosetta Stone was originally placed in the temple at Sais. Much can be inferred from the inscriptions and the depictions. The different texts show the mix and change of culture during the period, with the influence and dominance of the Greek language since the arrival of Alexander the Great in 332 BC. Although Greek is present, the hieroglyphs and stela itself indicate that the Ptolemaic ruler was conducting himself as a genuine pharaoh, as the stone was part of a classical tradition and an expected practice of the Egyptian monarchy. The hieroglyphs were the most important inscriptions on the stone because they were written for the gods to read and only the priesthood could understand them. The pharaoh became embodied within the object, which immortalised him, legitimised his rule to the people and the gods, depicting his relationship with them and projecting his power and authority. Over time, the Rosetta Stone became an object of deliberate abandonment, as the Christian Romans and later the Muslims of the Ottoman Empire chose to ignore all things pagan, and Sais became ruins. During the 15th century, the stone became useful as building material for an Ottoman fort in the town of Rosetta. So it remained until 1799, when the French discovered it during the reorganisation of the fort. The stone may have been ignored if it was not for Pierre Bouchard, who was a scientist accompanying the army as part of Napoleon's politically driven Institute of Egypt. Hieroglyphs at this time had long been indecipherable, and Europeans had viewed them as mysterious symbols, which scholars had been trying to decode for years. Noting the readable Greek text, Bouchard saw value of the stone as a possible key to deciphering the hieroglyphs and sent printed copies to the Commission of Arts and Sciences in France. It is here that the Rosetta Stone takes on a very different use and meaning and becomes an object of European colonialism. Before it could be sent to France, the British Army captured the stone in 1802, and it became a spoil of war, which is marked as such on the back in paint, before being transported to the British Museum. The stone was again a political object, not as a symbol of power, but as a prize of a superpower and the key to an ancient world. The copies which had been sent back to France had also become as important as the stone itself, for deciphering the stone had become a matter of national pride and rivalry between the two superpowers. It would be 25 years and take the work of many scholars before the stone was deciphered. The French philologist Jean-Francois Champollion and the English polymath Thomas Young would be accredited for the deciphering of the hieroglyphs, and their names, although not inscribed on the stone, would now be associated and tied to the object's history. The Rosetta Stone would also be associated with their names, as it had inspired and empowered their work and made them famous. The Rosetta Stone now represented a wondrous key, which had opened a door to a lost, mysterious civilization, bringing about a revolution in the knowledge and understanding of ancient Egypt. With the stone now housed within the British Museum, it might be expected that the object is now at its final conclusion. But the Rosetta Stone still continues to represent different meanings to different people and societies. Visitors place value on the object, with each seeing it with a different point of view, ranging from indifference to affiliation. Originally, it was uncased, and visitors would touch the stone as if by running their hands over the object they were somehow touching the mysterious past. When the stone was encased for conservation purposes, a replica was made so that this experience could be continued. The Rosetta Stone has inspired careers in history and Egyptology. It has also influenced works of art, music, books, films, poems. Musical bands have even named themselves after it, and the object has even become an analogy in many disciplines for the key of breaking codes. The Rosetta Stone is the British Museum's most popular attraction and is therefore an object of tourism. The tourism industry plays a major part in the United Kingdom's economy, and the Rosetta Stone contributes to this. Many additional objects and replicas of the stone are manufactured and sold, such as postcards, models, key rings, pens, confectionery, posters, t-shirts, scarves, ties, mugs, puzzles, and each item will in turn have its own biography to tell. A giant replica was made as a memorial in 1991 to Champollion in his hometown of Figeac in France. The stone still remains very much a political object in a world where property laws have turned archaeological discoveries into political weapons. The Rosetta Stone has become the focus of international law and morality, as the Egyptian government requests that the object be returned to Egypt. Many Egyptians see the stone as representing their past and a symbol of Egyptian identity, and that it belongs in the Cairo Museum. The curators regard the stone as an icon of Egyptian identity that was stolen from Egypt. The British Parliament and Museum claimed that the current country did not exist when the artefact was taken, and it would have been neglected if it had not been so. They also argue that if the object was not recovered, then Egyptology as is understood today would not even exist, and modern Egyptians would not even know the artefact to claim it. The British Museum has also questioned the security and conservation of the Rosetta Stone if it was returned. Some scholars have suggested the object could be shared, and that the Rosetta Stone could be portable between London and Cairo. The Rosetta Stone as a political object is complex, but so too is the biography of the artefact, as its use and meaning change. It remains unclear if the Rosetta Stone will ever be returned to Egypt. But meanwhile, until the next episode of the stone's biography, the object will continue to draw crowds to the British Museum and inspire their imagination, and introduce them to the ancient Egyptian world. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to Simple Archaeology for future archaeological topics.